Hello, race fans. Peter Mackay here, welcoming you to the F3 VRS Super Series by Apex Racing Academy. We are here at the beautiful Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari, or as many people know it, Imola. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome in the commentary box my esteemed colleague Brian Delp, and bringing you these wonderful images and graphics is Marco Barbanera in Rome. Brian, I'll come to you first. I watched the race last week that you guys called at Bathurst. It looked like, it looked very exciting indeed. Are you up for this one at Imola tonight?
Yeah, first off, I want to say it's great to have you back, Peter. It's nice to be sitting in the second seat again. But yeah, last week was a lot of craziness that happened. We had people self-spinning from the lead. We had guys just piling up in the mountains. So, big, crazy week last week with all the wrecks that ended up happening that really shook up the points to begin with also. So, it was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see tonight when we're back to more of a, what I would call a normal track for these cars, as Bathurst is really different than anything else that we see.
I completely agree with you. I mean, Bathurst is one of my favourite circuits anywhere in the world, and I was devastated to have to miss the race last time out, because any visit to Bathurst is always a treat. But you can see why it's such a popular circuit for big touring cars and GT cars, because you can afford to maybe just rub the wall slightly, but these little Dellaras, they're very fragile and they don't like those big walls at Bathurst. A little bit more room to play with today at Imola, but not too much. And of course, this is this is one of the most beautiful layouts anywhere in the world to drive any race car, but particularly a slightly underpowered, lightweight single-seater racing car like this. It's just such a driver's circuit. I'm so excited to see our championship contenders go to battle here. Is the Imola circuit one you enjoy doing some laps around, Brian?
Well, I can't say I have a lot of experience here. A lot of these tracks I haven't really seen much of, but I have seen a few races here, and it's always action-packed. I mean, it's a pretty quick track. If you are looking around, you see the track map and everything. So you see there's a lot of straights here. So that gives a lot of times for drafting and for speed. So I think draft is going to be a huge part of the day, and just positioning yourself behind someone.
Yeah, that's going to be big for sure. What I always find with Imola is that the track really kind of bottlenecks to me. Is that when you come in, whoa, we're going to big pile up here in practice. You'll see a lot of the times where you'll have, like you say, big long straights, and then all of a sudden you come down into a really tight braking zone, and I think we're going to see some fireworks for sure. Also here, Brian, I find the curbs are evil here. So if the walls at Bathurst are evil, well, the curbs at Imola are evil. Great shot here. Look at the height of those curbs. Now, you can launch over those in a Carrera Cup car or a touring car, but the F3 car is probably going to be a little bit upset going over those enormous curbs.
Yeah, and we talked about car control really throughout this entire season also, where some of these guys have had a lot of trouble with it, and we've seen a lot of self-spins to begin with, and a lot of guys taking each other out just from losing that control, along with also just hitting a curb and maybe unsettling it a little bit. So these guys really got to be able to position themselves well within the car and position the car well itself, so that they're able to keep this thing on track, keep it going fast, and not lose a ton of time.
Absolutely. Well, as we see our drivers getting the last few moments of practice in before we go into our brief qualifying session and into tonight's races. It's certainly been a fantastic series. We've been to Bathurst, we've been to Laguna Seca as well, which was a lot of fun. I have to say that the Laguna Seca layout very, very tricky, and we've also been to Monza, so this is our second visit to Italy. And of course, Imola not been on the Formula One calendar since 2006, but this year in November we're going to see the Formula One guys come here, which I think will be very exciting. And of course, it's difficult to think about Imola and not think about that tragic weekend in 1994 when Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger lost their lives, but it's really nice to see the circuit making a bit of a recovery from that kind of reputation, and because it is a wonderful circuit, and I'm sure it's going to be really exciting for our drivers. Speaking of, look at the pace that David Holland is putting in. 1 minute 36.6 in practice, 0.3 of a second quicker than his championship contender Christophe Herbignot and championship leader Hugh Barter. So it's going to be really tricky for those guys to keep up the pace with David Holland. I was looking at his practice times. He can run more or less a 1 minute 37 for fun, so that's going to make a big difference. Now, Brian, tell us about this man on screen right now, because this is our esteemed colleague Austin Knight.
Yeah, Austin's been talking to me a little bit about this. He's excited to be doing this. He's having some fun with it. He's not expecting to go out there and put in some blazing laps, but he's just enjoying being out there and having some fun. So we get to really see our colleague go out there and try to put in some laps. So we see he's having a little bit of issues at the moment.
I would say this Austin Knight, for our viewers, he's one of our fellow commentators here on Apex Racing TV, and for me, I would say that he's the Tommy Byrne of Texas. Now, I feel, Brian, every broadcast we do, we have a bit of a generation game where I come out with a reference and you're going, I'm sorry, Peter, I have no idea what you're talking about, old man. Have you ever heard of Tommy Byrne before?
I have not.
So Tommy Byrne, in the early 80s, he used to race against Ayrton Senna in Formula 3, funnily enough. So it's not a completely tenuous link. And Tommy Byrne, he was an Irish guy, and he was renowned by many as one of the most naturally talented drivers ever. So we're going to be a little bit wild and a little bit crazy, and that's hence why Austin is a little bit wild and a little bit crazy. Certainly behind the microphone, it's hard to keep up with him behind the microphone. So I've not actually called a race with Austin in it, so I'm very excited tonight to see what he's going to get up to.
Yeah, he had some incidents last week, we'll say, but he did give us a great show after the race of going and hitting the jump, and we got to see that car get all mangled and dismantled while flying through the air.
That's Austin. He's actually, although he's from Texas, he's actually, now, is he Houston he's from, or is he?
He's from San Antonio.
He's from San Antonio. Well, that's hopefully all of his fans will be spurring him on tonight in this particular event. Nearly finished our 1 hour and 20 minutes of practice, and we will be about to go in qualifying. Now, there's a couple of really tricky points here as we see Sam Koiter coming around one particular hard corner, the Acqua Minerale corner, and I have to say, I don't speak any Italian, Brian. I don't know if you do. Of course, Marco, our producer, of course, is his native tongue. But I don't know about you, but it seems to me, I think that Acqua Minerale must mean really, really horribly difficult corner in Italian. Maybe Marco will be able to correct us. But it's a horrible corner, that. So difficult. You're braking, turning, and trying to tuck the car into the apex. Really, really challenging corner.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like this track, we talked about how it's got a lot of straightaways where drafts are going to be important. It also just has a lot of like kinks and chicane areas, so you really got to be careful going in there because you're carrying a lot of speed, and then all of a sudden you got to make sure you're slowed down enough to actually hit the chicanes. And so it's really important for these guys to be completely aware as they're going around the track.
Absolutely. So our drivers now going out on circuit. 10 minutes with the blissful solitude. They've got the whole of the Autodromo de Enzo e Dino Ferrari all to themselves to go out and set a lap time, so they don't need to worry about anyone else on circuit. As we look at Hugh Barter right now, our championship leader, just getting his tyres up to temperature, the Hankook slick tyres on these Dallara Formula 3 machines. Of course, Dallara, an Italian manufacturer set up by Giampaolo. Mr. Giampaolo Dallara in the early 1970s, and of course Dallara more Indy 500 wins than any manufacturer. In fact, the only supplier in the IndyCar Championship currently, but a firm that have been involved with many exciting projects in motorsport, and also a further afield as well. Dallara, who produced this race car, also produced the hand cycle, which Alex Zanardi used to win his gold medal in the 2012 London Paralympics. And of course, Mr. Dallara, he worked for Lamborghini, he worked for Ferrari, Maserati, and even De Tomaso before going to start his own race car firm. And it's based not all that far away from the Imola circuit as well. So a home race for these Dallara cars.
Yeah, and something I saw there as we were riding along, Hugh Barter got a little bit loose coming out to start his lap, really. So these guys are going to be fighting a slick track. You can see that the sun is beating down here. So these guys are going to be slipping and sliding around these turns, trying to make sure that the car gets turned like they need to without actually losing it. And they're going to be fighting that wheel. So these onboard shots that we're going to see throughout the day are going to be quite impressive to watch as we just see that steering wheel bouncing left and right.
So I think now would be a good, well remembered, Brian, it'd be a good time for us to put on our amateur weatherman hats and have a look and see what our weather conditions are like. Because although, of course, in typical Italy, it's beautifully sunny, but what we need to worry about is on the bottom right of that little graphic there, track temperature. That's what we're talking about. 42 degrees centigrade track temperature. That is very, very high. Now, what does that have to do with us in motorsport? Well, when the track temperature gets excessively high, which 42 degrees is certainly in that category, makes the track very, very greasy, very, very slippy, and really makes it, as you say, Brian, a much more of a challenge for our drivers. So we might not see some absolute blistering pace here in qualifying, but thankfully our sprint race format, quite short races, so tyre management not going to be a problem, but the grip given by the tyre is not going to be optimal, is it?
Yeah, it's going to be hard for these guys because, like I mentioned, and we saw with the onboard really, that they're going to be fighting their wheel a lot through these turns, especially, and trying to make sure that that car is hooked up to the ground. It's very easy on a slick track to lose the back end and start just sliding about. So you really got to be careful on how hard you get on the gas, especially too, because that can also affect with the sliding and along with the wheel with how much you're turning it. So these guys just got to really manage it to keep that speed up. But to some of these guys, having a slick track, that's going to be an advantage. They're going to be able to really slide this car around just how they need to put in that fast lap, and we're going to see who struggles on slick tracks and who's better at it.
That's a very good point, Brian, absolutely, because of course, although like you say, some drivers prefer it, some drivers don't, but you would think, oh, just set the car up how you like. In that this particular series, every driver is given an identical setup that is created by Apex Racing Academy coaches. So all the drivers taking part in this series get advice from Apex Racing Academy staff, and of course given a setup which every single driver uses, so that there's no difference whatsoever between any of these cars. So as you say, we're now going to see who likes that slightly slicker track temperature, who doesn't mind the car moving around, and who prefers it to be a bit more on rails. Well, at the moment, David Holland putting in a really quick lap time there, but immediately taken away the 1 minute 37.151, the pole sitting time right now. And well, it's going to be hard to call to see who's going to put it on pole overall. It's Modoff, who made his debut in the series last time out at Bathurst, and a very exciting debut it was, Brian.
Yeah, he ended up getting the pole position last week, and then in the first lap of the heat, it did not go how he wanted it to. He ended up spinning it by himself on the first lap, kind of just got behind from that point forward in the heat. But then in the feature, he fought all the way back up into the top three and ended up fighting his teammate really at the end there. So these guys are really fast between Modoff and Holland. They are teammates, of course, so they really just got to make sure that when they take the green here, if they are still the front two, they're not getting into each other, and they're giving each other enough room. But you got to be careful with the guys behind taking advantage of teammates playing it safe with one another. So it could add a whole different dynamic to that first lap.
Certainly will, for sure. 6 minutes and 47 seconds gone of this session. We're looking at Sam Coiter, the quick Dutchman in number 28. Now looking at Brett Pancari, one of our AM class contenders. And I have to say, Brett Pancari, he's got that beautiful Jordan Peugeot livery. So let's get Sam Coiter over the line with the Daniel Ricciardo replica helmet. Now, where does Sam go? 1 minute 37.293, his best lap of qualifying so far. Good enough for 4th overall for the Dutchman. Here's Taylor Lane in the, sorry, my apologies, Kevin Zwemster, same liveries. Kevin Zwemster, another Dutchman in the 24 machine. Let's get him over the line. A 1:36.921 is the pole position time he's chasing. A 1 minute 37.855 from him. So plenty of quick times going on, but David Holland pinching the pole position back now. 1 minute 36.921, the only guy underneath that 1 minute 37 barrier. So, do you think anyone can better that one, Brian?
I'm not entirely sure, but the one thing that we have to remember from out this season so far, David Holland has not been able to get it into victory lane, really. He's fought, and if I remember correctly, he hasn't really been able to put in there. He's got a bunch of second place finishes, so and he had a really tough week last week in both the heat and the features, so we'll have to see if Holland can really keep it up front the entire time tonight.
Absolutely, this would be good. Well, certainly getting on pole position would be the perfect way to do that. And of course, here at Imola, this track layout, it's a wonderful layout to drive when you're all on your own, but to get, as we see Shivan Baloo going for a little spin, the track position is really hard earned here. There's not too many obvious overtaking opportunities. It does have a bit of a reputation as a hard track to pass on, so that this qualifying session gathers just that little bit more importance as we're coming into the final stages of qualifying right now, and it won't be long before we'll be gridding up for the start of the heat race. Oh my, that is one very second-hand looking Dallara F3. What has happened here? Let's have a look. Number 32. So this gets a little bit... Wow, that's a... Oh my word. There you go. That was a big one, Brian.
I'm wondering if he forgot that there was a corner there? Or what exactly happened, because he did not slow down at all, but then all of a sudden you saw the Kurd try to turn, but at that speed it was not making it, so that was interesting to see, and hopefully that's not repeated in the race, because I don't know if he'd be the only car going at that point.
Yeah, I have to say, I've never seen all four wheels falling off the wagon before. That's a new one for me. So, that is qualifying complete then. So let's have a look how our drivers will line up for the opening race of the evening here in the Apex Racing Academy VRS F3 Super Series. On pole position, the American David Holland with a 1 minute 36.921. Just 73 thousandths of a second behind is Christophe Carbonneau for Fiercely Forward. In third is Karl Modoff, and fourth, Sam Coitert. Hugh Barter will roll off from fifth alongside Greg Seitz. Mitch Green will start seventh alongside Eddie Beswick. Your pole position sitter in the AM class, Aaron Smith in the number 42 AlphaTauri machine. 10th will be Kevin Zwemstra, 11th David McDonald, 12th Georgie Zine, 13th Isaac Snyder, 14th Dan Cranefist, 15th Shivan Baloo, 16th Taylor Lane, watch for him charging through, 17th Nico Nolivos, and 18th will be Brett Pancari. 19th our very own Wild Austin Knight, 20th Derek Holland, 21st Oscar Avella, 22nd Esteban Rosas, 23rd Mark McDonald, Marco Holterman, Aidan Aquino, and Steve Brown. So we just wait for the last couple of drivers to come to the grid, and we will just be about ready to go. You see, we're ready for 12 laps in this opening race here at Imola. We wait for the drivers to raise the revs up. in these little 2-litre normally aspirated engines. So David Holland, your Pro Class sitter, and Aaron Smith, your AM Class Pro sitter, here in the Apex Racing Academy VRS Super Series. Revs are up, lights are on, 5 lights illuminate, and we are go here at Imola in the Apex Racing Academy F3 Super Series down towards Tamburello. They go, and it's David Holland's got a brilliant start from pole position, makes it into the first corner safely and gets away cleanly with Christophe Herbignot following in behind.
Yeah, and it looked like a car was off there. I think it was the 24 of Kevin Zlemstra, I think, that ended up going off there, having some issues. And you see throughout the field, these guys are battling here on this first lap, trying to take advantage of getting as many positions as they can.
Oh, big contact. I think that's Shivan Ballou there and Zwemstra again, and that might be, that's the number 32 car there as well. And oh God, this is a little bit of calamity going on here coming out of the Villeneuve chicane, but no such problem for David Holland. His problem comes in the shape of Christophe Herbignot and the fiercely forward machine right on the rear diffuser of Holland. I think this could be a brilliant battle all race long, Brian, as we see Herbignot going to the inside, heading into Alta, hard on the brakes. Holland very cleverly gives him the room, and Herbignot is through. He is going fiercely for, oh, spinner, oh, it's a car park. Oh my God, that's Sam Coiter as well. Hugh Barter's involved as well, I think. Oh, that's taken out a number of the championship contenders. That's great news for Herbignot and Holland, but not good news. Yes, it is. Hugh Barter, that car is looking very second-hand indeed. So let's get a replay of this then. I think it's Karl Modoff that's been coming in to the chicane over the curbs. Modoff gets loose and Coiter cannot go anywhere, and it's a complete car park and just sets off one big chain reaction of carbon fibre destruction. What a pity there for Hugh Barter, the championship leader, don't forget. But as we've seen so far in this series, Brian, you've just got to get the car back to the pits, take your fast repair, and just get as far back up the order as you can, because it's a long night with this heat racing format.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things, is you still got to continue to fight, even though you might not be able to. It actually looked like there might have been contact there going into the chicane from behind, from Coiter into Modoff, and then maybe that unsettled Modoff's car as he was trying to get back onto the gas. That's a very interesting one, but it definitely looked like there might have been a tap going into the chicane.
I agree, Brian. I spotted that just as well. So my apologies there to Karl Modoff. I think he was definitely tipped into that spin by Sam Coiter. Well, a controversial start then to this evening here in the Apex Racing Academy F3 Super Series. But it's Christophe Herbignot who, well, didn't necessarily show his hand in practice. It was David Holland who was putting in the consistent fast laps, but he's pulled out over a second already. That's an extraordinary performance. Oh, this looks like the number 99 of Austin Knight. What has our beloved Texan been up to? Let's have a look here. I think this is heading down towards, where are we here? It's quite tricky at Imola to tell. I think that's into Villeneuve. And just Alta, my apologies. Thank you, Marco. That's the into Alta chicane. So, but no damage. That's the most important thing. So he'll be able to get back going again.
Yeah, and it was another case, I think, of just getting on that gas a little too hard with the wheel turns. So for those who maybe are watching and don't have a ton of experience with sim racing, when you put a lot of input into the wheel, and this happens in real life also, if you have that wheel turned as you're starting to get back onto that throttle, when you hit that throttle too hard, what's going to happen is your front of your car and the back of your car are going to try to go two different directions. And in that case is when you end up seeing guys start to spin out.
Absolutely, and we see a great drive so far from Aaron Smith, top class AmClass driver, and 4th overall in the AlphaTauri machine. Now, given that Aaron's doing quite well, Brian, I suspect that he still has your vote for livery of the series. Would that be correct?
I would say at the moment he still does. It's a very nice, just clean livery back there. So I'm enjoying it a lot, and especially like I said, being the Red Bull fan that I am in F1, I'll take an AlphaTauri livery any day.
Yeah, very very cool livery, indeed, and I like the Damon Hill helmet as well. That's very cool with the Oxford Rowing Club colours on that helmet. Of course, the same helmet that his father Graham Hill wore in back in the day. So, God, we're at third race distance already, Brian. Goodness me, 4 laps of this 12-lap opening encounter here at Imola. As we see down towards Tamburello they go. And this is always a really tricky corner as well. You've got to get the car slowed down, get it through the chicane and back on the power. You can really pick up a lot of time there. But the number 74 of Greg Seitz, that car is not perfectly straight. Look at the rear wing. It's obviously been some sort of contact there from behind, but doesn't seem to be slowing him down too much. A fourth place finish so far, not looking too bad. But Aaron Smith, the AM-class runner, is up in third overall. Brilliant drive indeed.
Yeah, and another thing, though, we talked about at the beginning that David Holland would be one of the ones to be caught here, but it actually looks like Christophe Herbigno is running a lot faster at the moment, and he's pulling away from Holland here. I've seen that gap stretching almost half a second in the last lap, so Herbigno is on a different level at the moment, and that's going to make it really tough, and I'm sure Holland is frustrated sitting there in second because he's seen Herbigno come up and just pass him multiple times, and oh no, not my AlphaTauri! Oh no! Smith having some issues in a round back there. He gets it going again, maybe not too much damage to that car.
I love it. We're so impartial here on Apex Racing TV. Oh no, not my AlphaTauri. That's the sort of thing that I would normally say. I would say, oh no, the Scotsman's crashed. No. Oh dear, dear, dear. So it's coming out. Oh no, coming down to Aqua Minerale. Direct translation. Really, really horribly difficult corner. And oh, just a little twitch. Comes back onto the racetrack at a 45-degree angle. That's always dangerous. Now heading to the Alta chicane. This is obviously where the problems occurred. Over the bumps he goes, and then whoop, just on that horrible artificial grass on the outside of the curb there, and it's just like driving on, well, frozen Aqua Minerale.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's really difficult because it is a different thing that you feel also, because you feel that curb as you touch it, and it's a different feeling for anyone who's never been in one of these things when you hit the curbs, and then you push a little bit further and you get onto that artificial grass out there, and it's just it's not great for your tires at all. It feels really bad. You'll see some of these guys are able to use some parts to their advantage in other areas, especially out of chicanes. It can be really difficult because you're trying to get that throttle down, and it just ends up making you lose the handling of the car.
So we're looking on screen at Sam Coiter at the number 28. Now we know that that Sam is super fast. Did very, very well in the Formula Drivers Challenge that we had here during lockdown on Apex Racing TV, and racing against some very high-profile drivers indeed. And Sam's very quick, and he's quick in anything. He's quick in a single-seater, and he's very quick in a Porsche Cup car as well. So he watch for him as the night progresses, and that's the thing I like about this format, Brian, is that if we see one of the leading drivers have a problem early, they still have time to really give us a show and fight their way back up throughout the night.
Yeah, and we've seen that when we look at points, the amount of times that some of these guys have really been in incidents early and been able to fight their way back through to get some decent finishes has really kept them up in the points. I can remember a couple times Herbigno has had some issues, and he's still sitting up there in the points. Along with Holland, he's had some up and down days where he's had a great finish, and then along with that, he's had some days where they were not the best, and he's been wrecked out in the first lap. He got that fast repair, and he was able to fight his way back to still make some decent points. So with us having 2 races with the heat and then the feature every week, you really got to be able to fight through even when something doesn't go right for you.
course, don't forget, folks, when we get to the feature race, we have the jumble that is the inverted reverse grid as well, where the field is really shuffled up quite a bit, and that really changes the order as well. As we see Christophe Daniel, well, what a drive here from the Belgian in the number 13. Well, unlucky for some, certainly not for him in that fiercely forward Dallara right now, but look at that. David Holland, 1 minute 36.9. So really hot pace. That's qualifying pace that the number 12 with David Holland is putting in right now. It's only 1.6 seconds back and just gone past half race distance. This race is not done yet, but David Holland's going to have to keep that pace up if he's going to have to catch up with Herbigno. And of course, as we said, Brian, catching up with him is one thing, but making the pass here at Imola is quite another.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard for him to get there. We've seen Holland put in some crazy laps over and over again, but it's going to be hard to continue to run that pace over and over again until the end of this race. I think that Herbigno got out further than Holland wanted him to at this point, and I think it's just going to be really difficult to make up that gap with the rest of this race still to go.
This is a great battle emerging here between Aaron Smith and the number 25 of Nolavos, but the championship leader in AM right now is Espinosa. But have a look at Snyder, the number 33, who's currently leading the AM class. He is only 3 points behind the championship lead right now, with Espinosa nowhere to be seen. So that's it's going quite well for the number 33 of Schneider right now, as we see. Look at this, Seitz and the number 23 of Zuinen. Whoa, that's very late in the brakes, glowing on the brake disc, and he's into the gravel. That's not where you want to be. Whoa, and over the curbs as well. That won't be very kind to the Dalara's floor. And there goes Snyder. That's the AM leader, and he's made a move up. Very impressive indeed from the number 33.
Yeah, and we see these guys are fighting no matter where they are. And the thing I like to see here is that the AM class drivers aren't just giving way to the pro class drivers either. We see Snyder up there mixing it up right now with some pro class drivers, and I mean, I think that it would put a big feather in your cap and make you feel really good if you're out there and you're passing some of these pro class drivers and finishing ahead of them. Like, you're supposed to be in a lower class and you're out here out finishing the people in higher classes. So I think that just makes these guys have a really good feeling. And of course, for those that don't know, the way that they are set is based on I rating. There's a limit, and if you're above that limit, you're in pro class, and if you're below it, you're in AM class, and that's really what it is. So those in pro class have a higher I rating than those in AM class. So if you see an AM class driver ahead of a pro class driver, it's just a bigger feather in their cap.
Absolutely, that is certainly a big boost if you can do it. But of course, it's as the night progresses, it's a really interesting dynamic, I think, Brian, because of course, and it applies to both pro and AM drivers, is that of course they're not if they're in the pro class and they're fighting with the driver in the AM class, they're effectively in two different championships that run in the same circuit. So they almost in a way, you've kind of got to bear that in mind, and you're always going to, sometimes you're going to apply your strategy differently to a pro class driver than an AM class driver based on the class that you're in.
Yeah, and another thing though is that they're all racers out there, so no one's going to give any just because you're in a different class. So I don't see any of these AM drivers pulling out of the way for anyone. You still got to go out there and earn that pass on someone no matter what class they're in. So I think the way that this dynamic is set up, it makes it a lot of fun, and we really get to see some of these fast guys. Now, back out front here, I said Holland wouldn't be able to get there, but he's closed it into under a second now. He's cut it in half from what it was last time we checked in on this battle to 0.7 of a second now behind. So he's really making up time on Herbigno now. So we'll have to see if he can get there by the end of this thing.
Absolutely, and Christophe Herbigno, 1 minute 38.2. That's a long way off his pace, about a second off the pace. And that's just allowed David Holland to get that little bit closer, and that will be playing on Herbinho's mind as well. Aaron Smith has another spin in the AlphaTauri machine. So that's him lost Brian Delp's vote for best livery, because Brian Delp is a glory hunter of the highest order. As we head into, just a little bit on the grass into Aqua Minerale. That's so tricky in there. But I tell you what, nobody's ever looked better having a spin than Aaron Smith in the AlphaTauri machine. But let's see if Christophe Herbigno can settle the ship a little bit, because he's under pressure from David Holland. But it's going to be really interesting to see how the lap times compare as we head through. We've only got 3 laps to go right now as we head around the Tosa hairpin. And look at this battle for the AM-Class podium. We've got Aaron Smith and the 25 of Nollevos, as well as they head into into Tamburello, down towards Villeneuve they go. And wow, this is a fierce battle into the very tight chicane of Villeneuve, and Nollevos very cleverly just yields.
Yeah, and even though Smith has had those issues, he's still sitting in 8th at the moment, which shows how quick he's been running away from the guys that were behind him, to where even though he's spun twice now, he's been able to gather it back up and stay inside the top 10. So, I mean, full credit to him to be able to do that, because it's not an easy thing to be able to do.
I completely agree. If you look at it, he's actually only 32 seconds off the outright winner, and you say with 2 big spins, quite extraordinary actually, just how well he's doing. So he'll be very pleased so far with his efforts at Imola, without the exception of those 2 spins, of course. As we see now, I think this is a replay of when he came down towards Alpha Minerale, or is this yet another incident? I think it is. Yes, it is. Oh, see, Aqua Minerale, an absolutely horrible corner to get right, but incredibly satisfying when you do. And really, that's what we all sort of crave as racing drivers, or even aspirational racing drivers. So that gap is now staying pretty steady now, about 0.8 of a second between Herbigno and Holland. And interestingly, you would think that from now the draft would really start to close the 2 together, but Herbigno has just recovered slightly.
Yeah, well, Herbigno has actually had a few lapped cars also, I believe, that he's really been able to get a draft off of also. So while he's drafting off the car in front of him, you then have Holland being able to draft off of Herbigno. So it's really just kind of null and voiding both drafts at this point and not making it really effective either way. So Herbigno has been able to keep it out there, and a car back around behind them, but the 2 leaders keep it going forward, and that is the 32 there that it looks like of Taylor Lane, who ended up having some issues there.
What a pity for Taylor, the fiercely forward driver. It's hard on the brakes here into the Alta chicane, a very tricky corner here. We're riding on board with Bezic behind Seitz. If you say his name quick enough, Greg Seitz, it just sounds like of course, Carlos Sainz is one of the current Formula 1 crop. But back at the front, that gap is starting to come down now. We have the white flag, so we are now on the last lap of this race. So this is going to have to take probably a mistake here from Christophe Herbigno, and a big lap here from David Holland. They head into the Tosa hairpin. Very tricky corner, that one as well. Back on the power. Up the hill they go towards Piratella, and then down towards the evil Aqua Minerale. Now, what have we got here? That's someone well offline, and that's Bezic. Oh, he's going to come out in front of Snyder. Snyder needs to be careful and avoids him very well.
Yeah, that was a great job by Snyder being aware of the situation, because it's very easy for Beswick to have come back on and taken him out in that situation. So just a good job by Snyder of being aware. I think he slowed down a bit because he lost some ground to the other cars in front. So I think he slowed down and was waiting to see if Beswick ended up flying across his nose or not.
Yeah, Bezic certainly, he's trying to desperately get past Snyder. Snyder having absolutely none of it. And Snyder looking really, really tidy there into Aqua Minerale, not trying to overdrive too much, keeping it nice and tidy, nice and clean. Now this is a great example of that. Really, Snyder, he's currently in the AM class lead, and even if he's passed by Bezic, he will still have that lead. As we see Christophe Herbignot, the Belgian, takes the opening race win of the evening then by a whisker, just half a second from David Holland. Brilliant drive from Christophe Herbignot as we wait for McDonald to come in third. We see Bezic just getting the better of Snyder at the line as well, but Snyder will take the AM class victory as well. And well, what an opening contest.
Yeah, that was some great battling. And talk about Aaron Smith coming home in the 8th position after 3 different incidents throughout that entire race. I mean, 2 spins and one where he went really wide also. So some great racing there to be able to get it back.
Now, what do we see here? Oscar Vela, he's got Hugh Barter behind him. He moves over. And then shuts the door straight in his face. That's not very polite. And neither's that. Oh my lordy. That was slightly clumsy there from both drivers.
Yeah, and we just saw a lot of these guys have some just slip up moments throughout the entire race there, where a few guys it seemed a lot of our incidents really were single car incidents of guys just getting loose, as we see there, big wiggle from the 38 of Steve Brown. So we just saw that it's really, you got to be mentally fit throughout the entire race to where you're able to battle and keep that car under control, because one little slip up and you're missing a corner. So for those that were able to stay up front, it just showed how mentally prepared they were to take on this track.
Yeah, I completely agree. This circuit really does not give you any rest at all. So let's have a little run through our race results from our opening heat. Your winner then, Christophe Herbignot, for a Fiercely Forward, wins by just under half a second from his championship rival David Holland. Dave McDonald finishes the race in third, a full 25 seconds back. So David Holland and Christophe Herbignot in their own universe. Fourth was Greg Seitz with Georgie Zuin in fifth. Eddie Beswick was sixth. And your AM class winner, Isaac Snyder from Aaron Smith and Nico Nolivos. Hugh Barter recovered to 10th place after an opening incident that sent him back to pit lane with a damaged car. That will be quite an important recovery drive from him. 11th was Sam Coitert with Brett Pancari in 12th. Derek Holland finished 13th. Carl Modoff was 14th. Our very own Austin Knight in 15th for Wolfpack Esports. 16th was Esteban Rosa. 17th, Oscar Avella. 18th was Kevin Zwemstra. 19th was Mark McDonald. Shivan Ballou was 20th. Mitch Green, 21st. Steve Brown, 22nd. Taylor Lane, 23rd. Followed by Aidan Aquino, Dan Cranefuss, and Marco Halterman. So, we were just preparing out for our feature race. Our drivers are just having a very brief 5-minute warm-up while, well, Brian, we have a little bit of a cool down after that one.
Yeah, there was stuff going on throughout the entire race. We talked about guys just losing it and maybe having a mental lapse, and we saw multiple versions of that. And along with that, we also saw a great battle throughout the entire field as guys were fighting until the end, tooth and nail, to just pick up every position. I think the big thing, though, is Herbignot gets another heat win. He's really been great in these heat races, but we'll have to see what he can do in the feature race once he gets put back in that field, because he has had some issues coming up through the field in the in the feature race.
Absolutely, we saw that certainly at Laguna Seca, where really he was just a victim of being in the mid-pack, and that's, as you say, if you do well in the heat races, you have to start in the mid-pack for the feature. So that strategy is going to be really interesting as well as we head in towards the latter stages of this championship. Now, of course, Imola, one of the most prestigious circuits anywhere in the world, and of course one of the real jewels in the crown of Italian motorsport. And when the original foundations for the circuit were laid down here in 1950, Mr. Enzo Ferrari himself was actually present. But would you believe, Brian, that the first Grand Prix here in 1963, not only was it not won by a Ferrari, there were no Ferraris in the race at all, as Jim Clark romped to victory in his Lotus 25. Hard to believe that the first Grand Prix at Imola, no Ferraris present at all.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about, really. So, big issues there for Dan Cranefuss. Again, just losing it on that curve, maybe getting a bit of the artificial grass. So, I think that we're going to see some bigger wrecks here in the feature race than from the heat race, because I think it's going to take, with us having those extra laps, I think we're going to see even more battling, which is going to result in a lot of these guys making some of these issues with outside another car or the car right behind them. So I think it's really going to be interesting to see how the feature race ends up shaping up.
Absolutely. I think for the faster drivers, the championship contenders in both classes, they've really got to be honest, I think they've got to wrap their car in cotton wool. We see big attrition rates in the opening laps, and I think it's going to be vital for our championship contenders to just try and avoid contact if they can. Of course, easy for us to say up here in the commentary box. It can get really frantic, and of course, at Imola, you've got these. They're not S's. They are very much chicanes. You look at that here at Tamburello. You've got a very sharp chicane, left, right, and then left again, and it can really bottleneck the field. And then at Villeneuve, it's exactly the same problem. You know, so it's going to be fascinating. The feature race. Wow, that's that's a big one in warm up, but thankfully no problem at all. So let's have a little look then at our grid for our feature race this evening. If our producer Marco Barbonera in Rome has it, there we go, right on cue. So pole position, championship leader Hugh Barter will roll off in front of Nico Nolavos. On row 2 will be Aaron Smith and Isaac Snyder, the two AM-class contenders. The third row will be Eddie Bezic and Georgie Jouin. Row 4 will be Greg Seitz and Dave McDonald. Row 5, David Holland and Christophe Herbignot. And row 6 will be Sam Coitert and Brett Pancari. Row 7, Derek Holland and Carl Modoff. Row 6, Austin Knight and Esteban Rosas, Oscar Avella, Kevin Zwemster, Mark McDonald, Shivan Ballou, Mitch Green, Steve Brown, Taylor Lane, and Aidan Aquino as our drivers decide to grid up much quicker than normal. You'll see their revs are up already. They're eager to go here at Imola. 4 lights, 5 lights, go here at Imola. And we are off for 18 laps around the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari. And Hugh Barter gets off to an absolute rocket start. Into Tamburello he goes, and he's got the camera all to himself there as they pile through Tamburello. Oh, we've got the number 25 car off there as well. That's Nolavos, one of the AM-class runners, but they look like up to now they've got away relatively cleanly, apart from Shivan Ballou. He's got 2 wheels on his wagon there. He'll need to take a tow back to pit lane. Oh, we've got the number 30 of Bezic off as well. He'll have to try and get back onto the straight and narrow. But Hugh Barter, look at this. Where the rest of the cars gone? He's off. He's gone.
Yeah, and I mean, that is huge for him to be able to get out that much, because what it does is it makes all those guys that are championship contenders that have to fight back to the field, like Herbignot and Holland, they now have to not only fight through this field making up positions, they then got to make up all that time that Barter is able to get on everyone else. So Barter's putting himself in a great position to walk out of here with some great points.
Now, don't be fooled, folks. With our timing screen at the top, you will see 2 drivers above Hugh Barter, who's showing on our timing screen in 3rd place. That does happen on the opening lap if 2 drivers go to pit lane. So ignore that for now. Hugh Barter is in the lead of this motor race. Well, we're riding on board then. Oh, that's one of the Rush Racing cars gone off as well. The number 21 of McDonald. So, where is Christophe Herbigno? He's managed to get his way up into the top 10. He's in 9th right now. Where is David Holland? David Holland's up to 4th. He's got an absolute rocket off the start. So can David Holland get up to Hugh Barter? We'll need to see how that progresses over the race. And oh no, that's not progress. That's the opposite of progress. And that's, oh my word, David, that is, oh dear, dear, dear. That is not good news for the championship contender, David Holland. Oh, wow, wow, wow. That's changed the complexion of this championship on its head. What happened to David Holland?
Yeah, and some more incidents still even throughout there. So I think this really sets the pace for Hugh Barter to walk away with this win in this feature as we're checking out the replay here to see what happened. Oh, and the car in front just got loose, it looked like, and was sideways. And at that point, Holland was coming around the turn with nowhere to go and just ended up tagging the car. And so some big damage there for Holland.
I can't. Oh, there's more cars off. Pancari's off. And the other Holland, Derek Holland, is off as well in the 80 car. Yeah, for David Holland, number 12, I can imagine he is absolutely furious at the wheel of his Dallara right now because there was absolutely nowhere for him to go there. The number 66 Rush racing car broadside across the track, and that is, unfortunately, that's something that just happens so easily when you're in the mid-pack. Looking at Sam Kuitert now. Now watch Kuitert, the number 28 Sam Kuitert. He is quick, is the Dutchman. He's up into the podium positions already, not too far behind Schneider in second, and he might be the man to watch to try and reel in Hugh Barter. But for Hugh Barter, that start, he made he had the pole position, he got the pole position, but he converted perfectly, getting into Tamburello cleanly and making his escape.
Yeah, he had a great job firing off and just continued to use all the guys battling behind him for position to get out further. And I just want to say a huge shout out to Isaac Snyder running second right now in the M class, ahead of all of those pro drivers. We saw the 80 there having some issues. That was Derek Collins. So, but Isaac Snyder up there in second place right now, who also has a pretty great livery. So he's putting in some good laps, running second. And we talked about he's in the M class, and we talked about what that means earlier. So he's having a great run right now if he can continue to run right there. And even if he can't and he starts to fall back, he won't fall back too far as he has a large gap all the way back to 10th. So I don't see him falling outside the top 10.
Oh, he's looking, yeah, you're right. He's looking very, very strong indeed as the number 33 of Snyder. But look who he has for company. He has the hard-charging Dutchman, the kart racer, Sam Kuitert, who's, very, very aggressive. He is the virtual Verstappen for me. He is always channeling his inner Max Verstappen. It's Hugh Barter. It's in 138.9. He's certainly got more in the tank than that. And Snyder, 138.993. Kuitert 137.8. So I would expect Sam Kuitert to be able to run in the 1 minute 37. So if Hugh Barter can't run that pace, then we're going to see Sam Kuitert run him down. But he's made his way past Schneider. But Brian, for Schneider, he could do really well by just following Kuitert for a couple of laps. Not necessarily for a tow, but a great reference and some great lines.
Yeah, and I mean, even getting that draft off of him by following him, that's going to help him pull away from the cars behind as long as he can continue to just run some decent laps with that. So he's doing a great job there. And we go back to second in the M class. It's Aaron Smith again having a decent run right now. And he's sitting there. I believe he is 8th overall. So he's having a good run. And look at that. Austin Knight, our good friend, is running in the 3rd position in the AM class at the moment. So we'll have to see if he can keep doing that as Rosas is chasing him down at the moment. But Austin having a good run at the moment.
Oh my, I can only imagine if Austin gets on the class podium, well, it'll be something different for him to talk about than his new Fanatec wheel that he's so happy with that he bought a couple of weeks ago, which we will love to hear about the updates of his new sim setup. But yeah, great drive from Austin so far in the number 99 Wolfpack Esports machine. riding on board right now with the number 74 of Sights, currently second in the championship, coming into this race, getting a big old draft, heading down to Tamburello, moves to the inside of Greg Zuine and into the curb. Can he make it stick without getting contact? Brilliant move, clean, precise, makes it stick, good stuff. And look at Christophe Herbigno, he's on the grass, he's not going to have it made so easy for him. And he has to wait a little bit longer through Villeneuve, down towards Toza. He is not getting it easy at all from Zuine. And oh, who's this off?
Oh, Austin.
Oh,
Austin
no.
Having some issues, stuck in the sand and working his way back on. It's that old commentator's curse. We need to stop talking about people here. I don't know how we can do it as commentators to not talk about people, but we apparently have to figure out a way, because it's been happening a lot during the series where we mention someone and then all of a sudden they have issues. So we're going to have to figure that one out and just calling them by their car colors, apparently.
Well, to be honest, if there's one person who has the most infectious commentator curse, ironically, it's Austin. He seems to have an even more infectious... Oh, no! Spin for Aaron Smith. Oh, dearie me. And he is dropped back a little bit in the AM class now. He was running in second in class. It's the horrible Alta chicane over the curbs, those horrible curbs. Oh, dearie me, in a big spin. So, now...
I believe that is the second time he's actually ended up doing that. I think he did it, that was one of the spots he did it in the heat race also. So, and Sam Coitert is in now. So something happened with Sam Coitert when he was running second.
It looked like there, even though he was out the car was still in gear. Turning around. So what on earth has happened here to Sam Coitert? That horrible artificial grass whack into the wall. Well, at least he's not far from the Dallara factory to go and get some spare parts to get his car fixed.
I think it was actually more the sand there. It looked like he just went even wider than the grass even. He ended up touching that sand, and as soon as he touched it is when his car really decided to snap on him. So Barter with a 10-second gap now, so it's going to be really hard for Greg Seitz to end up catching him.
Yeah, Greg Seitz, he'll be quite happy. He came into this race just 2 points behind Barter in the championship. So coming into this race, that's how they are in the championship, as they are in this race order right now. But not good news for Sam Coitert, but very good news indeed for Christophe Herbigno, who did come into this race fourth in the championship, but not by much at all. It's very tight, and as we head into the business end of this season, of course, the final round next week at the wonderful Interlagos in Brazil, and of course there's been plenty dramatic season finales at that particular circuit, as well. Hugh Barter, 1 minute 37.149, that's qualifying pace, and well, he's clearing off.
Yeah, and to be still running that pace at this time, I actually would recommend for him to slow it down. I'm a big strategist, as you guys have heard throughout, where sometimes it's better to run safe, especially with that large of a lead. You don't want to end up risking something. We saw it with Coitert and a few of these other guys where they're pushing hard and just one little mistake and they're around, and you don't want Barter to make that mistake and end up giving up all this ground that he's been able to gain.
Oh, fierce battle here between Christophe Herbigno and Snyder as well, and Modolf getting in there as well. Now remember, Snyder, he's the AM class driver, but I tell you what, Brian, he's loving getting up with the pros and just getting up there and punching them well above his weight. Very impressive indeed, but Modolf able to slip by Snyder there, but Snyder still in a comfortable AM class lead. In fact, he's 11 seconds up the road from the second place in class, which is Aaron Smith, who had a spin earlier on. So interesting stuff there, but Hugh Barter running very strong pace. Just coming back to what you're saying, Brian, if you're the strategist, I'm the pessimist. I would be agreeing with you there. For him, he's got such an enormous lead. There's nothing really, as you say, not really necessary to bang in qualifying laps. Just as I say that, a 1 minute 37 flat. The exuberance of youth, maybe, Brian.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you don't want to ever let off the gas because someone could make up that time. But it's really just one of those things again where you make a risk of possibly spinning yourself. And here, there's a lot of places to do it, as we've seen. I think we've seen a spin in almost every part of the track at this point. So I would be starting to lay back a little, getting on that throttle a little bit later, not pushing the car as wide. Just slowing down really a little bit just to make sure that you keep that car safe. I mean, there's a 12-second gap at this point, so even if the person was running a second a lap faster than you, they wouldn't catch you before the end of the race.
So, speaking of catching, well, Austin Knight, he's managed to recover after that little off-track excursion, and he's up to 13th overall, currently sitting 5th in class. So how far is he off a class podium? 14 seconds, but still plenty of time left in this race. We're not even at half distance yet. We'll be elapsing half distance shortly, but David Holland in the number 12 car back in 16th, really unlucky to get involved in that incident earlier on. Now, what are we going to see here? Is it's another Smith spin heading down towards Aqua Minerale. That has really been his Achilles heel. Just a bit of inside curb this time, but manages to hang on to it just. But oh dear. Steve Brown. Steve Brown's had a big one there. What's happened here?
Oh, he just got out on that grass, and that is a big wreck there. The entire front end of that car just missing. So we saw him have a big incident earlier too, as we were watching along live, where he ended up getting wide. But here, he just never could get back on track at that point. He got out on that grass and probably just kept skating forward. And so big incident there for Steve Brown. It sends him back to the pits.
Well, he's got the, of course, the helmet he's got there. It's a bit of a Katz Nakasuga replica with the big eyes above the helmet. They would have been wide going into the barrier there. That was a big hit indeed. Now, look at those lap times from Hugh Barter. All low to mid 1 minute 37s, and that's the sort of pace. And just look how much time he's pulling out of Greg Seitz there. This is a really good drive from the youngster. Of course, born in Japan. His mother is Japanese. He was born in Nagoya, now lives in Melbourne. His father is Australian. So interesting combination, and wonderful performance so far from the young karting star.
Yeah, and Snyder, I want to talk about Isaac Snyder again, where he's actually lost some positions, so I don't know if maybe he's had some incidents or anything, but still running a lot. And Snyder came into the night. He was second in the amateur class, and this is another good run from him. I think we've talked about him almost every week of just having a good run and being up there. So this is going to most likely, I believe, put him up higher in the points, as Espinoza has had some issues. So great run.
Sorry, Brian, my apologies. Herbigno is off. Championship contender Christophe Herbigno is off in a big way. My apologies, Brian. That caught me by surprise. And that is at Tamburello. What has happened to 13 Christophe Herbigno? Down into Tamburello he goes, hard on the brakes. What happens here? He gets on the grass on the exit, and then just into the tyre barrier. And these cars are so fragile, not an awful lot you can do. That changes absolutely everything for Christophe Herbigno. Can he get that car back to pit lane? He'll have to come in. He's got no front wing at all. And for David Holland, that's a big relief.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we talked about throughout this season. It's kind of been what we've seen, where Herbigno ends up doing really, really well in the heat, gets stuck back in that field, and then has an issue at some point that causes him to fall back.
And off number 21, McDonald for Rush Racing, and that car's suspension is badly damaged. It's crabbing about all over the place. Look at that. Really, those Hankook tyres pointing in a very different direction to where that carbon fibre steering wheel will be pointing. So, big, big news here. Christophe Hermignaud, championship contender, race 1 winner, don't forget, is in big trouble. And of course, Brian, this gives a lot of drivers who are keeping their nose clean some big opportunities for a big haul of points.
Yeah, and what it's also going to do is it's going to allow Barter to possibly push even further out here. It looks like Snyder, oh no! Snyder, the AM class leader who we talked about having such a good run, ends up losing it. And look at that. Look who is now taking the AM class lead. It's Aaron Smith. Talk about battling through some adversity throughout the entire day. He's had so many incidents, and now he's leading the AM class.
Wow, so let's have a look then. We see Kevin Zwemstra, the pro driver, going by hard on the brakes into Tamburello. And yeah, same mistake, exactly the same mistake as Christophe Hermignaud. Into the gravel he goes, does well to keep it out the wall, so he still has a car capable of doing a good lap time, so he can try to chase down Aaron Smith. At least he didn't end up in the barrier. So this is interesting. This AM class battle has been absolutely fascinating, Brian, between these two guys.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting to see how things shake out after tonight with the points, because Aaron Smith right now has been running very far down in the points coming into tonight, but he was really he was 20 points back from the AM class lead. So tonight, if he gets out a win right here, it could be big for him. And some big issues here for Steve Brown.
I tell you what, there's going to be a long queue at the Delara Parks truck after this race. We've seen a lot of damage for many, many drivers, but not for Hugh Barter, who leads this race. We're only at 2/3 distance, and he is 13.5 seconds ahead of Greg Seitz in second position, with Modoff not a million miles behind, just 1.5 seconds back from seconds as well. So still plenty of racing to go here at Imola, and I think particularly in the AM class battle, we are far from done in that particular contest.
Yeah, and I think Modoff, looking at the lap times and what they've been running recently, it looks like Modoff is going to actually catch Seitz within the next couple of laps. So before this thing ends, I see Modoff getting there to Seitz and most likely making that pass, but there's just not enough time to get up to Barter at the moment.
Yeah, Modoff running very strong laps, very low 1:37. That's a very, very strong pace indeed. So this is going to be fascinating to see this battle emerge between Seitz and Modoff. But interestingly, Seitz, he's been here for the whole championship, and he's currently sitting in second place. But for Modoff, of course, he only arrived at Bathurst for round 3. So a very different complexion for both of these drivers. So it'll be interesting to see if Greg Seitz necessarily puts up that strong a defense.
Yeah, and looking back at, we talked about AM class also, so your top 3 runners at the moment are Aaron Smith, Isaac Snyder, and then Esteban Rosas, who are sitting currently overall 7th, 8th, and 9th. You can kind of see the gaps there. Rosas isn't really in position to get past either Snyder or Smith. And I believe the gap has stretched between Smith and Snyder since the incident to begin with, but we see our good colleague Austin Knight around again there having some issues.
Yeah, Austin not having the best of days by his lofty standards, as we see side by side here. David Holland going past the Rosas, the AM class runner, makes it stick cleanly into Tamburello. So David Holland now up to 9th position, which I'm sure, given the opening, the early contact with the other driver, that's a good recovery drive from him. He's got another 20 seconds up the road to Snyder, so it's going to require mistakes from drivers in front to gain any more places. But look at this. This is emerging now for second position between Greg Seitz and Modoff. This is going to be really, really interesting. We know Modoff has a lot of pace in this car. He's going to get a fantastic draft here down the front straight, past the pits and down towards Tamburello we go then. In the draft, he's really getting the boogie on now. Remember, these cars are set up identically. He gives the dummy, goes to the outside. Greg Seitz has the inside line, but This is going to bottleneck. This is going to be very, very tight. Modov makes it. Oh, and Seitz gives him the room, gives him fair room. But, oh, this is making me nervous, Brian.
Yeah, it's getting to be hair-raising at the moment because these two are so close there. It's not really an area you want to go side by side through. Typically, of course, you want to make passes on the straightaways if possible, but Seitz is fighting right now to keep this position from Modov, and it could really be the difference in some of these points battles. Also, with Barter leading at the moment, and with Seitz running second coming into the night, so Seitz really needs to hold on if he's able to.
Yeah, it's so tight. Of course, the Barter coming in with 105 points, Seitz coming in with 103. So very, very, very close indeed between those two drivers. But this is well, Seitz doesn't. Oh, and there you go, and Seitz. Oh, brilliant stuff from Seitz. He does a full 360 spin and doesn't lose all that much time, and he gets back going again. So this was always the danger as Modov got closer. They came in on the brakes, and Modov is running a quicker pace and gets caught out on the brakes, tags him, and whoa, synchronized Dallara spinning we go. And I tell you what, some Gymkhana action there, almost Ken Block-esque from Greg Seitz.
Yeah, it looked like Modov maybe lost concentration for a second. We saw him start to poke his nose out. It seemed like he was questioning whether or not he wanted to go for that pass at that moment. You see, he starts to look out, and then all of a sudden, the car in front of him was slowing down. So Seitz just got on the brakes, and Modov wasn't ready for it.
That's one of those ones where you're saying sorry before you've even hit the car in front. You didn't lock up though, I don't think, Brian. I certainly didn't catch that on the camera, but. Yeah, that was one of those when you get on the brakes and you know you're not going to stop in time when you're going, oh, sorry, but you're plowing into the car in front. But no such problem for Hugh Barter, who's really made, when you get that pole position on the reverse grid, you've really got to make the most of it. And well, the young Aussie-Japanese driver has done a cracking job in this race as we head over towards the end of lap 15. He'll have 3 laps to go at the end of this one. Look at that. Christophe Herbigno, who's gone into pit lane, got a new front wing, and just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:37.0 from the Belgian. That is incredibly impressive. And look, he only has 5 seconds up the road to David Holland. That would really crush David Holland's resolve if he could catch him.
Yeah, that's what I've been sitting here looking to see, is if Herbigno is able to get to Holland or not. So we'll have to see if there's enough laps. I'm not sure there is, but Barter is also still kind of stretching this gap out to Seitz here, even after that incident. So Barter's definitely not slowed down, even knowing that there was an incident behind him. So I don't know. I would be the one to sit there and continue to put in these fast laps. I mean, you have a 17-second lead at this point. You can really slow it down and just take care of the car.
Yep, I'd be with you, Brian. Like you say, 3 laps, you could almost push it home from here. But Hugh Barter, he certainly looks just comfortable. And sometimes when you're just in that groove, it's just lovely. I'd love to know what it feels like. But he just seems to love this Imola circuit, really driving beautifully. But coming up against lap traffic here, you really need to be just a bit careful, giving plenty of room and getting lots of room and respect there from the number 80 of Derek Holland. Very good from him. And oh my word, look at that time, Brian, from Christophe Herbigno, 1:36.881. Well, he races for Fiercely Forward, and he is certainly doing that right now.
Yeah, and he's continuing to move up through the field. So I just want to say that some of these guys have put in some impressive runs that we don't talk about as much. Wemstra, Green are two that have really put in some fast laps. I don't think we've really mentioned Green at all. So good run by him. So another one that I see down there is Punkari, running 12th at the moment, putting in some good laps. So some of these guys that we don't really mention as much because they're not really leading their class at the moment or anything like that. And these guys are putting in some really good runs right now.
Absolutely. I think it's almost it's almost like a hidden compliment if the commentator isn't talking about you much, because it means that you're running a very clean and pure race. If people think you're running a boring race, it means as a driver you're actually running a really good race because you're not making any mistakes, which of course around here at Imola is incredibly difficult to achieve. So at the moment in Pro of Hugh Barter leading by a postcode 18.4 seconds from Greg Seitz. In AM, it's Aaron Smith in the 42 car by 12 seconds from Snyder. So this is really fascinating in both classes as well. It's going to shuffle up the championship quite a bit as well. So we're on to the penultimate lap of this race, and well, it's pretty much set who we're going to see in Pro. But plenty other battles going on as well. Oh, little Zuhain, the number 23, he's got the advance here of Karl Modhoff. Can Karl Modhoff make this move stick as they head down towards the front to Rivazza, the double left-hander, and Modhoff goes in, and oh, is there a little bit of contact there between Zuhain and Modhoff? It's going to be close here, it's going to be tight, but Modhoff goes around the outside, but Zuhain will get right back in the draft.
Yeah, and just some great battling here going to the end, and we'll see if he can use that draft to make it back up there and get that pass going. So Modhoff being able to battle back and get back in the third spot after that incident earlier just is impressive to me, to be able to show the willpower that you have, that you made a mistake, you ran into the back of someone, and here you are still battling for that third position.
Yeah, he's certainly a hard charger, is Karl Modhoff. He's clearly got some brilliant one-lap pace, and I tell you what, when he puts it together over a race distance, stand back, because it's going to be very impressive. So we've taken the white flag then, and this will be the final lap for Hugh Barter, who currently leads Greg Seitz by 19.3 seconds. It's been an incredible drive from the youngster, heading down now towards Rivazza for the final time. Then he can just coast it home from here. Back down the gearbox he goes. Is he going to have some fireworks for us coming over the line? He might well do. What's he got planned for us? Just a big cruise to the checkered flag then for the number 68. Hugh Barter came in here as a championship leader, wins the feature race. A brilliant drive, absolutely dominant. Hugh Barter is your winner in the Apex Racing Academy F3 Super Series, and it's going to be Greg Seitz then coming in second place, solidifying his position in the championship. Brilliant drive from him, super steady. He will be very happy indeed with that. Karl Modhoff then taking the final spot on the podium. And here you go, Brian. Here's your man, number 42, Aaron Smith in the AlphaTauri machine, takes the AM class win.
Yeah, that's a great run there for Aaron Smith to be able to battle back through everything. We kept talking about him. We should have had an Aaron Smith spin counter and really kept track of all of that. And to see him winning after all of those incidents, that's just an amazing thing to see.
I'd imagine Snyder, he will be very happy indeed as well. Came in second place in the championship behind Espinosa. Espinosa not really anywhere to be seen, so Snyder likely to take the lead of the championship going into the season finale next week, as we see Brett Pancari having to defend here from Bezic, who is not in his class but makes the move stick at Rivazza, and Brett Pancari will come home in 12th position to take third in his class. A good drive as well from the Jordan Peugeot driver.
Yeah, there were some great runs all around. I believe only 13 cars ended up on the lead lap. That just shows the pace that Hugh Barter was running today. So a great run by our winner of Hugh Barter. So he's going to leave here, I believe, definitely with the points lead. So just a great run overall for Hugh Barter.
Absolutely. He will be very pleased indeed. And we will have race results for you shortly, and then thoughts from a few of our key drivers. So Hugh Barter then is your winner by 21.8 1 second from Greg Seitz. An incredible drive. Karl Modoff rounds out the podium in third. Fourth is Georgie Zuine. Fifth was Kevin Zwemstra. Sixth, Mitch Green. Your AM-class winner in seventh overall. Aaron Smith in the 42 machine with Isaac Snyder in eighth. David Holland, unfortunately, all the way back in ninth after an unfortunate incident, not his fault at all, earlier on in the race, making sure he finished at the back end of the top 10. Same for Christophe Herbignot. Unfortunately, a crash at the Tamburello chicane, putting him back to 10th place. 11th was Eddie Beswick, who just edged out Brett Pancari for 11th spot. 13th was Esteban Rosas, our very own Austin Knight in 14th. 15th was Derek Holland. 16th, Mark McDonald. 17th, Nico Nolivos. 18th was Steve Brown. 19th, Sam Coiter. 20th, Dave McDonald. 21st, Aidan Aquino, followed by Dan Cranefuss, Oscar Avella, Shivan Ballou, Taylor Lane, and Marco Halterman. So, what a couple of races we had here this evening at Imola, and I believe we have a couple of our drivers. Oh, we did have a couple of our drivers to come and join us in the interview waiting area. I think, Brian, I even saw Austin Knight lingering in the interview waiting area.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened. I did get a message from Austin Knight, who is not happy at the moment. So I'm not sure where everyone went, but we'll have to see if some of those drivers hop in there.
Absolutely. So, if you enjoyed that action tonight here in the Apex Racing Academy F3 VRS Super Series, do not forget to tune in to our broadcast same time next week for the season finale at Interlagos. Of course, those Formula One fans watching will know of plenty controversial season finales. Of course, nobody can forget the time when Lewis Hamilton won on the very last corner with Timo Glock slowing down and Lewis Hamilton coming through to win the 2008 World Championship, just edging out Felipe Massa in the Ferrari. I remember Jenson Button winning the 2009 Formula One World Championship at Interlagos as well, and I'm sure the F3 VRS Super Series here on Apex Racing TV is going to be no different. And of course, a big thank you to our series sponsor, VRS, for their support. Much appreciated indeed. And we now have some drivers to come and join us. So why don't we speak to our winner? Brian Delp is with our winner, Hugh Barter.
Hugh Barter coming away with another win today. So you blew through the entire field there in the feature race. You had a great start. After the start, what were you really feeling?
I don't know. It was a tough race. I guess I just pushed through, kept my head down, and got 10th, I think.
Now, you at the start there, you ended up blowing by, and by the end of the first lap, you had almost a 6-second lead. When you saw that, what were you thinking in the feature race where everyone was that far behind you, and then you just continued to stretch it and ended up winning by 20 seconds? What was just going through your mind that entire feature in terms of being able to just run those laps?
I don't know. It was just making sure that I was safe on, off tracks, and just making sure that I got to the finish and my car was in one piece. That was just my main concern. And then last lap, I just had a bit of fun with it and did an 8, I think. So yeah, just keeping the car in one piece and being consistent was key.
Now, you came into the night with the points lead, and I'm sure that you'll either have it or be close at the end of this thing. So going into the final race next week, how are you feeling about it? Are you prepared? Are you ready to have this battle, or do you think you can come out with the championship?
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm going to do as many laps as I can at Interlagos to maximize my points next week. But I can't do anything about if I get taken out or just get driven off track. That's racing, I guess. But yeah, I'll try and maximize my points next week and see how Greg goes.
And another thing, did you feel that actually finishing 10th in the heat and being able to start up front, do you feel that was more of a benefit to you than maybe having that good finish in the heat and having to fight your way through in the feature?
It depends. Points wise, I don't think it was better for me. Because Greg, I think got like a 4th and a 2nd, so I think he's beating me on points now. But yeah, it was more of safer play, to be honest, because the second race I was just able to start from pole and then just drive off, I guess. But yeah.
Now, is there anyone you want to thank while we're here live on Apex Racing TV?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Evolution Racing Team. They've been a big help to me in getting into sim racing. I'd like to thank all my sponsors in karting in real life. They're a huge help, especially through COVID. And Mum and Dad for supporting me.
All right. Well, that was Hugh Barter, your winner for the feature race. And again, congratulations on another win and going to be fighting for that championship next week.
Thank you.
Now I believe we have our 3rd place finisher of Carl Modoff is with my colleague Peter McKay.
Carl, that was certainly an eventful feature race for you, but a podium finish in the end. How was it from your perspective?
I think you nailed it. Entertaining. The first couple of laps, it was just complete chaos. This car is really tricky. I'm learning on the cold tires, and especially it seems to want to understeer a lot with this setup until the tires come up to temperature. So you really kind of put a lot of lock in, and then the car like really over rotates on you. So you see a lot of that, guys kind of missing apexes everywhere, and that opens up a lot of racing opportunity, but also a lot of kind of chaos, which first couple laps were, but we were able to escape through there pretty unscathed and be able to put together a good race. Sorry to Greg there. I did not mean to get into the back of him. I typically drive GT4 cars, which don't stop so fast. I thought I broke early enough to give him space, but yeah, glad he was able to hold on second there. That was unfortunate.
Yeah, I was saying on the commentary, that was one of those ones when you hit the brakes, you're already saying sorry before you you kind of know
Yeah,
it
totally.
as well. It's now, of course, you're one of our fashionably latecomers to the series. Of course, joining us at Bathurst last time out, but we're off to Interlagos next for the season finale. Now, I was saying on the broadcast that you've got the strong pace. I think we can. I've got my tip on you for a race win in Interlagos. Do you think that's on the cards?
I like the way you think, Peter, but I am actually going to miss that race too. When I signed up, I was going to do the full thing, but 2020 has been kind of a weird year, and I got some job opportunities, so that's why I missed the first 2 rounds, and I'm gonna miss the next round as well. I'll be at Road Atlanta, so bummer. But I'm not going to be here, and I'd like to, have a strong showing. But wish everyone the best next week, and hopefully it turns out good for David Holland.
I'm going to have to call my bookie and tell him to cancel my bet then. Oh dear. Now, are you off to Road Atlanta in sim or in real world?
Real world, I'm a mechanic on a TCR team. I just got a job working with a team called Road Shagger Racing. So we'll be out there running the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and I'll be on the mechanicking side, but it's still racing. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Oh, cool. So we're looking out for the Road Shagger TCR in Michelin Pilot Challenge. I'm a big IMSA fan, so I'll be looking out for you guys. Thanks for coming up to join us, Carl, and thanks for coming to join us in the series. And good luck next week at Road Atlanta.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Thanks to all the announcers, broadcasters, and Delta Sport, the team, for all the support.
So that was Carl Modoff, and I believe, now who shall we get next? I think Brian Delp is going to be joined by our AM class winner, Aaron Smith.
Aaron, a good run for you today. I'm excited to be speaking with you right now. We saw some incidents there, a couple spins throughout the day in both races, and off tracks. What was going through your mind through all those?
Just I don't know, man. Legit, I kept saying to myself, don't make any mistakes, and then I'd go ahead and do them, and it was a little bit annoying. But I did catch you guys saying at the end of the race that you needed a spin counter for me, which fair enough, I guess. I mean, I spun way too many times, and today could have been so much better. But it like again, I got the AM class win, but it could have been so much more.
Hey, I mean, an AM class win is still pretty impressive, and especially after the incident you ended up having to be able to fight back and get that. Don't sell yourself short on that because that's pretty impressive. We kept saying how every time you'd spin, you were able to just hold your position, really, only giving up one or two. So quite impressive, especially because you didn't damage the car. But once you came around and you took that checkered flag for that AM class win, what was going through your head at that moment?
Finally, it's ended. This was not a race I enjoy. And what's weird is I really like Imola. I just don't like this car. It just does not suit this track. And the fact that this track is just so unforgiving just makes everything worse. Like in that second race, I got 3 slowdown penalties. And I think I had about 15 incident points by the end. And it's just crazy. I just kept making too many mistakes, but I feel like the only reason I did get the win is the fact that this is a race of attrition. Really, I mean there were incidents aplenty today, and it's even more surprising seeing drivers like even Herbigno. The fact that he messed up at some point just proves to you how difficult this track is.
Well, I think that should really be a tip of your cap then, or being able to hold on for that AM class win and good points day today. So we're heading next week to Interlagos for the series finale. You're gonna jump some spots in points today after your good finish. So, are you looking forward to Interlagos, or how do you feel about it?
Very mixed, to be fair. I mean personally, I'm a huge F1 fan, so tracks like Monza, Imola, and Interlagos. Hopefully, I should be a lot better at. So I think going into next week, I think the championship might be a little bit out of reach, but again, anything could happen, and I'm just gonna push as hard as I can next week. And I like Interlagos. I think it's a pretty fun track, and let's see if I can pull something magical out of my hat.
Well, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to while you're here on Apex Racing TV?
I don't even know if anyone's watching. You guys, for providing us with pretty good commentary throughout the series, and hopefully that continues into next week. I also missed Peter last week. I missed my Scotty friend. I felt a bit lonely, and what I found weird as well is the fact that last week when you weren't here, it was horrible for me. So I feel like you might be my good luck charm, and hopefully you'll be here next week.
Don't worry, Aaron. I'll be here next week, and we'll be Brian and I will be completely impartial, but we'll be your good luck charm. Don't worry.
Alright, thank you guys so much.
All right, well, that is Aaron Smith, your AM class winner, getting a good finish again this week. So now I believe we have our good friend, we're going to Isaac Snyder first, and Peter will have Isaac.
Isaac, I've got to thank you so much, first of all, because now my colleague Brian Delp has to have the challenge of interviewing our colleague Austin Knight. But you had a brilliant run out there tonight. Tell us about your day at Imola.
It started off a bit rough. I was a bit off pace. I knew this track would kill people just because of all the curves and how Monza went, because that track also has a lot of giant curves. So I took it really easy on the first few laps just to see what happened. And first race got lucky, and probably 5 or 6 people got taken out at the chicane. And then the last race, I just tried to hold everyone off and ended up spinning and luckily there was no one behind me for like 20 seconds. So I think I had an overall good, decent night.
Certainly did, and of course, with no sign of Mr. Espinosa, you'll likely go into the season finale with a good points lead. How are you feeling heading into Interlagos?
I don't have that track, so I have to get it and learn it. But yeah, I was surprised Espinosa didn't show up because I was looking at the points and he was right there. He's the closest person to me, so I have a cushion, but I'm still gonna push harder and see what I can do at Brazil.
Well, just watch Ayrton Senna qualifying laps, and just something like that will do. That's good. That's a good one for inspiration. While we have you live here on Apex Racing TV, Isaac, is anyone you want to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
Probably my mom and dad and all my friends that support me and watch all these broadcasts just to send their good luck to me, and they just keep up with everything. So hi everyone, thank you.
Well, hello to Mr. and Mrs. Snyder. Hope you're well. Hope you enjoyed the race as well. Isaac, thanks so much for coming to join us for the to join us for an interview, and we wish you all the very best for the season finale at Interlagos.
Thank you.
Well, last but not least, our very own esteemed colleague Austin Knight is with Brian Delp.
I believe we can partner on this one, Peter. Austin, you have sent some messages already, so we kind of know where this is going to go. How do you feel your races went?
Well, first I feel obligated to say howdy, howdy, howdy. Race number 1, that was pretty fun. I just came into this race expecting, hey, I don't want to get involved in any incident or really get hit by anything. And well, race number 2, I had an amazing start, and for some reason I like to listen to the broadcast, and then for some reason you mentioned my name, and the moment you did, I went off track. The commentators cursed me, Brian. Why?
I think you did it in your own head. You commentator cursed yourself.
No. The moment you said it, the moment, and Marta's playing it on stream right now.
Yes. So you went off track there, and you currently, I don't know if you knew this, you were 3rd in the AM class.
Yes, I know. I was 3rd. I was in the AM class.
So
I had the wonderful SDK gaming overlay showing me where I was.
So next week we go to Interlagos. Have you touched that track at all with this car, or are you going in green?
Interlagos. Well, it's going to be a surprise to you. This is my actual second week ever driving the F3 car, so I never touched Interlagos in the F3, but I've touched it in the GT car, I've touched it in the Mazda, I've touched it in the Skippy. I've just touched that track with a lot of different cars, but yeah.
All right. Well, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to while you're here on Apex Racing TV as a driver at the moment?
Yeah, certainly not you, because he cursed me. Nah, I want to thank both you guys and Marco at the commentary booth. I've got to thank my friend Red, who was just supporting me in the chat. I believe he was the most person who was commenting. Got to thank Wolfpack Esports. Got to thank Threat Tech for allowing me to have time off on the weekend and working here. Artesian Builds, they help build my computer, and the new computer is going to be even more insane, so go check them out at artesianbuilds.com. And yeah, everyone watching and supporting us on Apex Racing TV who make these types of events possible, because without you guys, why are we here? So thanks all 10,000 of you.
All right. Well, that was Austin Knight coming home 14th in the finals. So very interesting interview there, Peter.
Absolutely. It's always entertaining when Austin is around, whether it's in the booth or in the cockpit. Very good to chat to Austin as well. And I'll be joining him in the booth for the Ricmotech series here on Apex Racing TV on Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern. That's about all we have time for here on Apex Racing TV for the F3 VRS Super Series. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring this race to you from Imola. Thanks so much to our broadcaster and producer Marco Barbanera in Rome, who brings all these wonderful graphics and images to you. It's absolute black magic to me. I wouldn't know how to do it, so big thanks to Marco for that. Huge thanks to my commentary booth pal Brian Delt for all of his wonderful insight and company over tonight's race. If you want to find out more about tonight's event, you can go on to www.apexracingac.com for more information. And don't forget to put it in your calendar, 8 p.m. Eastern. Next Saturday, we will go racing at Interlagos for the season finale. Will it be Hugh Barter? Will it be Christophe Herbigno? Will it be Greg Seitz? Find out on Apex Racing TV next Saturday. We'll see you there. Thanks for watching.